What is going on, guys? My name is Stuber, and I'm here to break down the 6-game NBA slate on Draftkings and PrizePicks.com. If you guys are new here, welcome. If you guys are a returning viewer, welcome back. If you guys joined my giveaway in the last video, I will announce that winner momentarily. If you guys want to enter today's giveaway for $25 via Venmo or Cash App, all you have to do is like this video, subscribe, and then comment literally anything down below, and I will announce that winner in tomorrow's video. So make sure to come back and view and see if you guys won that money. I know I missed yesterday's video and live stream, but I promise you guys that I put in even more work than I usually do. When things get really hectic like that, I am a one-man show here, so there's a lot I have to take care of. And first and foremost, I have to take care of my Patreon members. And we prevailed on pretty much all aspects on FanDuel and Draftkings. If you guys saw the screenshots on Twitter, we absolutely killed the most hectic slate of the NBA season. And it looks like it's going to be like that moving forward. I'm going to go ahead and continue to put out these videos and live streams for you guys. But just be aware that I'm largely focusing on my Patreon members. So if you guys want to join my Patreon, that is linked down below. Only $25 a month. Get to see exactly what I'm playing on FanDuel, DraftKings, and PrizePicks.com every single night. And it is very, very important to be at my live stream tonight at 5 p.m. Central Time. So while this is a great primer for the slate, there is a ton of moving parts with all these health and safety protocols and all these teams being super thin, signing a bunch of 10-day contracts, and just a lot of moving pieces. But we will make sure to break that down to the fullest extent in the live stream later on today. But let's just jump right into things, guys. By the way, make sure to join my free Discord. That is linked down below. We have over 1,700 members there. I'm pretty active in there, as well as a bunch of other people. But to announce the winner of last video's giveaway, we had 96 eligible contestants. Let's see who ends up winning. Whoever wins, make sure to hit me up on Twitter. DM me. I'll get you your money. Hamza, I appreciate you commenting. I've seen you a couple times in my videos as well. If you see this, make sure to hit me up on Twitter at Stuber. Give me a follow, DM me showing proof that it's you, and I'll give you your $25 via Venmo or Cash App. Again, on Christmas Day, we are going to be giving away a ton of money in prizes on my live stream. All you have to do to be eligible to enter that giveaway is follow me over here on Twitter and then like my pinned tweet. Only 150 eligible people for those. So let's just start with the first game of the slate, the New York Knicks versus the Boston Celtics. We currently have a 210.5 over under. The Celtics are 5-point favorites. The New York Knicks are going to be without RJ Barrett, Quentin Grimes, Kevin Knox, Emmanuel quickly, Luka Samanic, Jericho Sims, and Obi Toppin. Incredibly thin. Also to mention, Derrick Rose is questionable on this slate, which is very important when breaking down the New York Knicks. Their backcourt is very thin right now. Alec Burks and Evan Fournier should play all the minutes they can handle with the current situation they're in right now. Especially if Derrick Rose were to miss this game. I do believe that if Derrick Rose misses this game, Kemba Walker, who has been out of the rotation, might end up being back into the rotation, and then he would be in play. But definitely need to wait and see if we get any word from Thibodeau here. But as of right now, Alec Burks and Evan Fournier, should play quite a bit of minutes today. But given the price tag of guys like Alec Burks at 7,700 and how bad Evan Fournier has been, in a normal scenario, in a normal slate, these guys would be great plays. But as of right now, after going through the entire slate, I really have little interest in those guys. Julius Randle is probably one of the top 2 or 3 raw projected players today, which is worth mentioning because there is so many good value plays today that he is definitely in play at 10.1K. If there is no Derrick Rose, they are lacking offense, and so they might lean on him heavily because Alec Burks and Evan Fournier aren't that great at creating their own offense. And then that just goes back to the point of if Kemba Walker is back into the rotation and Derrick Rose is out, really only Kemba Walker and Julius Randle can create their own shot. Alec Burks can do it to an extent, but it's not at a very reliable rate, and he is 7.7K. Move on to the Boston Celtics side. They are going to be without Al Horford, Grant Williams, Jabari Parker, Juancho Hernan-Gomez, Sam Hauser, and then Dennis Schroeder just entered safety and protocols right as I announced this. And then Romeo Langford rather is still questionable right now. So on this Celtics team, the only guy that I'm considering is going to be Jason Tatum up top at 9.8K. I think he is the top projected raw projected player on the slate. It's very, very easy to get him into your lineups. This is only a 5-point spread right now, so I expect this game to be competitive. It's a very, very soft matchup for Tatum in a pace-up spot. He's been very, very good, and I also think that there is a chance that Jaylen Brown could rest here. They have taken his process coming back from injury very, very slowly. He surpassed 30 minutes last game, which he was on a 30 minutes cap. Played 33 minutes in a competitive game. This is the second leg of a back-to-back where he just played 33 minutes. So I think there is a decent chance that he sits here. I'm not expecting it to happen, but just be sure that you're aware of that. But I think Jason Tatum, regardless, has been very, very good recently. And without Dennis Schroeder and Al Horford, I think he should be leaned on heavily here. Should play 38-40 minutes here, assuming this game does stay competitive. Now, without Al Horford, Robert Williams is going to play a lot again. He played 37 minutes last game, but it was in the worst matchup possible against the Golden State Warriors, so he wasn't very successful there. But on PrizePicks today, in a pace-up spot against the New York Knicks, where he should thrive and should be able to avoid foul trouble because they can hide him on Mitchell Robinson or Nerlens Noel, who aren't very active offensively. He should be able to avoid that foul trouble. I like the over 29 fantasy points for Robert Williams. Like I mentioned, he just played 37 minutes last night in a tough matchup, and now this is quite the opposite matchup. I think that he can definitely get this done. 29 fantasy points. Keep watching this video. I think there's a couple other plays that I think are very, very strong over here on PrizePicks. Make sure to use code Taylor, TAYLOR, when signing up and depositing. But as far as DraftKings goes, from that first game, it's really just Julius Randle and Jason Tatum that have my interest. Move on to the Orlando Magic versus the Brooklyn Nets at 210.5 over under. The Nets are currently 5.5 point favorites. Now, if you can guess correctly who does the best in this game, I think you are going to be successful, because I think this is the best game, the number one game to stack tonight by far, just because both teams are at G League levels right now. So they are very, very thin on bodies, and they are very, very inexpensive. I really think that the winner of tonight's slate in tournaments is probably going to have an excessive amount of salary left over. You don't have to spend all your money today, because I think a lot of these cheap value plays in the 4K range, 3 and 4K range, can put up just as big of numbers as the more expensive guys like Tatum and Julius Randle. Obviously, there's much more volatility with those guys. But I do think that it's worth a shot in tournaments to leave a pretty considerable amount of salary. The Orlando Magic are going to be without Michael Carter-Williams, Jonathan Isaac, Markelle Fultz, Jalen Suggs, Mo Bamba, Terrence Ross, RJ Hampton, Mo Wagner, Etuan Moore, Ignas Brazdeikis, and then Wendell Carter Jr. is doubtful. He left last game's game early. He's unlikely to play today. And then Cole Anthony is questionable, which is a very, very big piece of news. If Cole Anthony plays, I absolutely love him at 8.4K. He missed last game with an ankle injury, which was yesterday. So this is the second leg of a back-to-back. I would guess that he doesn't play, but of course we're going to get this news ahead of time, since this game starts only 30 minutes after lock. If he doesn't play, I'm going to be all over these Orlando Magic guys. Anyways, after Wendell Carter Jr. was injured last game, they ran just a 7-man rotation in the second half. Michael Mulder started the second half, but Hassani Gravett closed the game and played the last 16 minutes while leading the team with 8 potential assists, which was pretty surprising, because I thought Wagner would dish the ball out a bit more, but that was not the case. Wagner only had 5 potential assists, but he did have a 34.8% usage rating. So if Cole Anthony is ruled out, I absolutely love Franz Wagner. I think Wagner is a great play regardless, but if Cole Anthony is out. Wagner is going to lead this offense, and this is a very, very soft matchup against this Brooklyn Nets team that is depleted just as much as the Orlando Magic are. Gary Harris, Chuma Okeke, and Robin Lopez are the other three guys on this team that I absolutely love today. Okeke played 38.5 minutes yesterday. Gary Harris 36 minutes. Franz Wagner 36 minutes. Robin Lopez 33 minutes. So those four starters have very, very safe minutes in a great matchup, and I think they're four of the best plays on the entire slate. You could play all four of them, and I would feel completely fine with it. Mulder and Gravett are more secondary options from the Orlando team, but really need to monitor the situation from Cole Anthony. Move on to the Brooklyn Nets side. They are going to be without Kevin Durant, James Harden, Bruce Brown, LaMarcus Aldridge, Paul Millsap, James Johnson, DeAndre Bembry, Javon Carter, Joe Harris, Kyrie Irving. Nicholas Claxton was just downgraded to doubtful. He is unlikely to play. Patty Mills was ruled out yesterday, and they were going to give him the day off for rest, but with them being so thin, they ended up announcing him as available. They also just signed Wenyen Gabriel to a 10-day contract, so we definitely need to monitor what the starting lineup is. I think that there is a chance that they just announced Patty Mills as available because they got so thin on bodies, and they wanted to make sure that they had enough, and this was all before Wenyen Gabriel was signed, and David Duke Jr. is still on the injury report as probable, so maybe that is more serious than that probable tag indicates. With that said, I'm expecting as of right now, because they do have like 9 active bodies, because they also signed James Ennis, that I do expect Patty Mills to start. But if Patty Mills is available but is coming off the bench, he's not going to play. So I just keep that in mind in this situation. As of right now, my favorite guys on Brooklyn are going to be Cam Thomas. Cam Thomas for sure at 4.7K. He should lead this team in usage even more than Patty Mills. He's a go-to scorer. If you guys watch G League and Summer League, or not G League, Summer League and preseason, Cam Thomas, whenever given the opportunity, is an absolute monster, an absolute bucket. I love Cam Thomas today. Blake Griffin and Patty Mills, if they're in these starting lineups, are pretty solid plays as well. It's just unfortunate that Patty Mills is up to $7,000, so I'm probably not getting up to him. Really going to focus on guys like Cam Thomas, David Duke Jr., and Kessler Edwards, but I really want to monitor the situation of the starting lineup. Day'Ron Sharpe should start here, but with Wenyen Gabriel signing a 10-day contract, I am pretty concerned that he could steal some minutes away from him. Well, he definitely will steal some minutes from him, but without Claxton originally, I thought Sharpe could reach the 30-minute mark, which would be great because he is such a good per-minute producer. But we'll break that down a bit further in the live stream once we get news on who is starting and who else they end up signing to 10-day contracts. Moving on to the Golden State Warriors versus the Toronto Raptors, a 203.5 over under. The Raptors are currently 9-point favorites. The Warriors are going to be without Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins, Jordan Poole, Andre Iguodala, Otto Porter, Klay Thompson, and James Wiseman. It is only a 9-point spread. I say only, but I think there is some pretty serious blowout risk here against the Raptors, who are largely unaffected by the whole COVID situation, while the Golden State Warriors are either hit with COVID or are just straight up arresting their players, which they are arresting like Steph Curry. So they're intentionally going into this game thinking that they could possibly lose here. So I don't think they really care about winning all that much. But I really want to see what the starting lineup ends up being. I think Damian Lee and Juan Toscano Anderson are by far the safest options here. They likely won't be in the lineup if they end up closing, or if they end up getting blown out. But before then, I think that their minutes are by far the safest, and they should facilitate the offense. I think that if I look at my notes, Chris Chiozza and Nemanja Bjelica are probably the two most volatile players on this team, but with volatility brings very high upside, also brings much risk. But I think Chiozza and Nemanja Bjelica are more of tournament options. Damian Lee, Juan Toscano Anderson, more staples in my lineups on both FanDuel and Draftkings. But they do only have 9 active bodies, and one being Doughton. Doughton might not even end up playing, so they could end up running an 8-man rotation as long as this game does stay competitive. But all of these guys, look, their most expensive player that is active today is 3.6K, and that is Damian Lee. So feel free to stack up on the Golden State Warriors with the Orlando guys and the Brooklyn guys. There's really like 3 teams that are super thin, or 4 teams rather, that are super thin today. Actually, there's like 5. So there's a lot of good plays today. Once we get these starting lineups and I further look into this before the stream, we'll have a more condensed look at things. Move on to the Toronto Raptors side. They are going to be without Goran Dragic. Kem Birch is doubtful. He even said himself yesterday that he doubts he plays today. OG Anunoby and Precious Achiuwa are questionable. Could make their returns today, especially if OG Anunoby and Precious Achiuwa return. I definitely don't want anyone here, but I think as a whole, you're getting, so normally I love playing guys like Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, Scotty Barnes, because I know what I'm getting. I know that I'm getting a ton of minutes, and I know where all of the offense and production is going to be condensed to just the starting lineup. But we're getting similar situations from pretty much every other team for half the price. So I really have no interest in the Toronto Raptors here. Again, there is some blowout risk here. And if this game is competitive against the Warriors, I think more times than not, it's because the Toronto Raptors are playing down to the Golden State Warriors level. And it ends up being a low scoring affair where I don't want to pay 9K for a guy in that situation. I'd much rather play the players on the other side for, more than half or less than half the cost of these guys playing in a very similar situation. Move on to the Los Angeles Clippers versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. You could pretty much just cross this game off as a whole. The Clippers, it's a 210.5 over under. The Clippers are 5.5 point favorites. Serge Ibaka, Kawhi Leonard are out. Nicholas Batum, Paul George are questionable, and actually Marcus Morris just entered health and safety protocols as I'm recording this. So off the top of my head, without him, Justice Winslow and Brandon Boston Jr. off the bench likely get a couple extra more minutes. Marcus Morris has been pretty active offensively, so maybe a bit more production gets spread out to guys like Terrence Mann, Reggie Jackson, Luke Kennard, and that's assuming Paul George is out. Paul George could be in, and then it just muddles the water even more, as well as Nicholas Batum, but not really considering anybody here from the Clippers. Similar situation on the Oklahoma City Thunder. These teams that are largely unaffected by COVID have pretty much no interest from me. The Thunder have Lou Dort as questionable. He missed last game. Kenrich Williams was pretty dominant coming off the bench. I think he'd be like an interesting tournament option, contrarian play. He would be like 2% owned, but really the only guy that I'm considering from there. Move on to the Washington Wizards versus the Utah Jazz at 223.5 over under. The Jazz are currently 10-point favorites. This is a road matchup for the Washington Wizards that are pretty much healthy right now on the road against the Utah Jazz. I really have no interest here from the Washington Wizards. I have none at all. On the Utah side, Donovan Mitchell is questionable right now. Actually, their injury report hasn't even been reported yet. I have him down personally as questionable. He played yesterday with a stomach illness. Said it was still bothering him after the game. So this is the second leg of a back-to-back in a game that they should handily win. So he could sit here. I'm not expecting that. Obviously, if he's sad, it'd be a pretty big boost to guys like Jordan Clarkson and Mike Conley. But I think Rudy Gobert is a very sneaky option today at 8.8K. The Washington Wizards, how they play defense is pretty well, but they allow the least amount of three-pointers per game, very elite at defending the perimeter, but they allowed the second most points in the paint. Rudy Gobert in their most recent matchup against the Wizards was very dominant against them, but the game ended up blowing out, and he only played 27 minutes, so he missed out on like 5 or 6 minutes. Would have put up around 50 fantasy points, you would have to imagine. I think he's a pretty damn good play at 8.8K, and nobody is going to go there tonight. Move on to the last game of the slate, the Cleveland Cavaliers versus the Milwaukee Bucks at 214 over under. The Cavaliers are 3-point favorites. The Cavaliers are going to be without Evan Mobley, Isaac Okoro, Colin Sexton. So without Evan Mobley, the Cleveland Cavaliers defense becomes much worse. I mean, Evan Mobley, arguably their best defender. Isaac Okoro, very good defender as well. So they're missing 2 of their best defenders right now, obviously without Colin Sexton already. So if there was ever a time to attack this Cleveland team, it would be today. But for guys that I'm targeting on the Cleveland side, Jared Allen, Darius Garland have immense upside here. I think that they should be leaned on heavily to run pick and roll against this Milwaukee team who is throwing out Sandro and DeMarcus Cousins, just like 2 absolute statues out there. I think that they could burn them pretty good today. So I like Jared Allen and Darius Garland quite a bit. I think they're going to be relatively low owned. I'm definitely going to be playing Milwaukee guys on the opposite side. So if you want to bring back in a late night hammer, love Jared Allen, love Darius Garland, and then Ricky Rubio is still entirely too cheap at 5.2K. He's averaging around 1.1 fantasy points per minute without Colin Sexton on the court. It gets even better without Evan Mobley. So like Ricky Rubio quite a bit at 5.2K. As long as this game is competitive, he should play 28 to 30 minutes a game. And he's been shooting a ton of threes this year. And Milwaukee allows the second most three-pointers per game. Like Ricky Rubio quite a bit at 5.2K. On the Milwaukee Bucks side, they are going to be without Giannis Antetokounmpo, Bobby Portis, Dante DiVincenzo, Wesley Matthews, Brook Lopez, Semi Ojeleye, Chris Middleton, and then Thanasis. And then Chris Middleton and Thanasis Antetokounmpo are both questionable. Now, it was pretty peculiar with the situation yesterday with Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton was probable, and then he was ruled out with that knee injury. So I either think that he re-aggravated it when warming up, and they ruled him out, and so it's worse, and then he's unlikely to play today, or Chris Middleton, they just wanted to give him this is the second leg of a back-to-back, and they played yesterday. Maybe they just wanted to give him one more day off on the front leg of a back-to-back, make sure he's ready to go for the next game. So it's really up in the air. If he were to miss this game, Drew Holiday would become an absolute lock. I already think Drew Holiday is a lock with or without Chris Middleton, but he would be by far my favorite play on the slate if there was no Chris Middleton. Also, Jordan Nwora would likely start in his place. Jordan Nwora probably grabs the start anyways, but he would be a much, much better play if Chris Middleton were to be out. He would become a lock at $3,600. So you might get a lower owned Jordan Nwora if we don't get news on Chris Middleton until closer till that game ends up locking. And then I think DeMarcus Cousins grabbed the start yesterday, ran into some foul trouble. Very, very good on a per minute basis, but his minutes got cut significantly just because, they were playing from behind and trying to catch up. So they went small a lot of the time with Jordan Nwora at the 5. Of course, I already mentioned the foul trouble. I think in this matchup that's going to play a lot slower against the Cleveland Cavaliers, it better fits DeMarcus Cousins and his minutes. So I'm going to go back to the well with him at 3.8K. I think a lot of people are going to avoid him here. I'm going to be very, very happy taking him at lower ownership than what we saw yesterday. So appreciate you guys being here. Make sure to be back here at the live stream. Best of luck. See you guys at the top of the leaderboards, and until next time, peace.